I found that if you're going to have a strong system like that,
Mhm.
you have some pretty strong pillars or
Sure.
core values, and those things are known of everybody in the program, and they're held accountable to those things every single day. What were those pillars, and how did you do those things that I just mentioned?
Yeah, I think we were consistently talking about effort, like I talked about, but we were really preaching stop ball, protect basket, and no middle. And that seems really simple, but everything boiled down to those things. So as we were teaching, the no middle concept, well, it's easy to say, hey, we're not going to allow middle when you're guarding the basketball. But we were no middle in our ball screen defense. We were no middle in our post defense. We were no middle in our on ball defense. When all of those things are extremely simple and you can go back to those pillars, I think that it becomes more consistent and more clear to your players. So, what do those things mean? Well, first of all, as that defense was developed, and Mark Adams is thinking very much outside the box of how do we gain an advantage, the things that he was thinking spatially. So he is a very unique basketball mind in that he was thinking, I want to take away a portion of the court that is the most important to any single offense. And we all know that once the ball gets into the paint, you're looking at a one in college basketball for the most part, and this fluctuates from year to year, but you're looking at anywhere from a 1.2 to 1.4 points per possession if the ball hits the paint. Now, if the ball hits the paint multiple times, that just continues to go up. So when we talk about the defense, we talk about taking away a space, literally space on the court. As when I came into it, my thoughts were more analytic based, which were okay, let's take away the paint because when there's not a paint touch, the average points per possession is anywhere from zero point 0.7 to zero point 0.9. Well, that would put us as the best defense ever. And so we started thinking that way because coach was thinking spatially and I was thinking analytically about those things. I think one of the best comparisons for that defense, and this is going to sound out of the box and off the wall, is the Syracuse zone. So as people start thinking about spatially what you want to do defensively, Syracuse takes away basically your short corner and your corner. So they have shrunk the court and they have put more bodies in a tighter space and just taken away areas of the court for you. And so we were looking to do the same thing, but we were looking to take away the paint, which we thought was even more important than those corners. But again, as you take a look at the defense, the simpler that you can be to do that, the better chance your players have in order to grasp it and in order to fly around and execute without thinking. So going back to kind of what the question was is we wanted to make sure that it was extremely simple with our no middle. So our ball screen defense was going to be an ice to switch all the time. On the sides, it was an ice to switch because you're keeping the ball out of the middle. Our post defense was still going to be no middle. And this is probably one of the ones that people do less of. But we were going to trap from the baseline side all the time. When you're thinking about all those things, you put those three things together, it's easy to go back and say, no middle, no middle, no middle. If you have a question as a player, you could literally go back to the no middle and say, okay, I could probably figure out what we're trying to do and quickly. Your habits have to change though. So some coaches will abandon the no middle defense because their players can't pick up the habits in the first month. It's going to take a lot more than a month in order to try and train your body to do something different than what you've done for years. Our players were coming in from, Matt Mooney was coming from South Dakota. Tariq Owens was coming in from St. John's. We had Brandon Francis came in from Florida. So all these guys were coming in from high-level programs or were high-level players in those programs, and they had been trained a certain way for 20-plus years. And deprogramming them and then programming them back to be able to close out top shoulder in a scramble situation is extremely hard to do. So the level of consistency day after day and the situations that you put them in where it's a live closeout in a scramble situation where you're in a different spot, you could be the help guy, you could be the sink guy, you could be the fill guy, and now you've got to re-close out and not allow middle once again. is where you have to get to as a defense in order to be able to do that consistently. I don't know that there was a lot of technical pieces to it outside of, hey, I'm going to close out top shoulder. Once we got to the sideline, we really built and I'll try and draw it here. We called it the house. And it was where our foot positioning should be as we closed out.
Did you guys put this on the floor? Tape
So
this
we
on
would
the
take
floor?
this on the floor every single day. And it's a little bit rough over here, so I apologize. But as you're right here, your feet should be parallel to the sideline. Your foot positioning is literally top shoulder. And this is where guys really get messed up. And this is where guys really get like, this is completely different from what I've ever done. But when that ball is here, your feet are literally parallel to the sideline and you are head on the top shoulder. Because of the length and athleticism that we had, we would do it all the way up here. I think that would be the biggest thing that you have to take a look at your personnel wise as to whether or not you can do is how far up can I really side is what we called it. You know, how far up are we going to side? Because as you get into this area, now your length and athleticism better be in your anticipation, better be really, really good. But as we got into this area, we would switch our feet a little bit to where you're not completely parallel to the sideline. You are more so at an angle. And then in the middle, we would call square. So our as we did closeouts on a day-to-day basis, we would have coaches or GAs in all three of those areas, and you're having a closeout top shoulder at those different foot angles, which is what disallowed the middle drives. From a ball screen perspective, it puts you in a great position to be able to ice because you're almost already in an ice position. The thing that I think guys struggled with is one, they felt like they were going to get beat really quickly. What we had to convince them was one, you're already taking away one way that they can go. So you're already basically loaded to be able to go with them baseline. We're forcing them exactly where we want them to go. So you're good. Like don't freak out here. And then the second piece was that we would hammer home, and we called it the goalie. People call it the hole. People call it the help guy, but head up on a hoop. We would drill that so hard that we would never not have one if the ball was on either side. Anything outside of a lane line, we were going to have a goalie. And if you'll bear with me for 2 seconds here, I'll give you a quick story. So we were trying to figure out ways to best get guys into that goalie spot. We were trying to make sure, like, hey, we're really not getting there in practice with a couple guys and in different situations. And how can we remind them? Like, what's a unique way to remind them? And just to give you kind of how, Coach Beard, Coach Adams, Coach Berg, their minds work, because they're a little bit different. I'm off too, but don't get me wrong. But they came up with the most West Texas way I could possibly think of. They came up with a cowbell. So during practice, we would have someone on the baseline, and if there was no one in help and the ball was anywhere on the side, all of a sudden you're hearing a cowbell, and instinctively, like, our guys got better. Our guys got better quickly. And, at first it was, I think maybe the first or second time we did it, Coach Beard stopped practicing. He goes, hey, that was pretty good. That was pretty good. Do that again. Do that again. And everybody kind of laughed, and then it just became a part of what we did. And again, it was a good way to break the tension and break, all of that. And it was very well timed from Coach. And I think the guys really appreciated it, but it also illustrated a point. And those guys really bought into that.